Deep beneath the sunlit crust of the earth, a profound and eternal night reigns. Here, where the bedrock crushes inward and the air hangs heavy with the scent of damp minerals, the fundamental rules of biology seem to shatter. For centuries, science assumed that all complex life ultimately relied on the sun, tracing every food web back to the process of photosynthesis. Yet, hidden within the planet's deepest subterranean fractures, ecosystems of astonishing complexity thrive in total, absolute darkness. These are realms where photons have never penetrated. They are environments where the temperature remains locked in an unyielding stasis, and where the atmosphere can be lethal to anything born on the surface. Uncovering these hidden worlds requires venturing into some of the most hostile terrain on the planet. Consider the sprawling labyrinth of Lechuguilla Cave in the Guadalupe Mountains of New Mexico. Discovered in 1986 after cavers dug through a rubble-filled sinkhole, Lechuguilla plunges nearly 1,600 feet deep and stretches for over 150 miles. Explorers navigating its treacherous drops and razor-sharp gypsum chandeliers found themselves not in a dead, static tomb, but in a dynamic, living laboratory. The air inside is thick with humidity, and the walls are coated in bizarre, rust-colored formations that defy standard geological explanation. The revelation of what created those formations fundamentally altered our understanding of biology. Researchers analyzing the strange, rust-colored crusts discovered they were not merely mineral deposits, but thriving colonies of microbes. These organisms bypass the need for solar energy entirely through a process called chemosynthesis. Instead of harvesting sunlight, these specialized bacteria extract energy from inorganic chemical reactions. They act as the primary producers in an entirely alien food web, proving that life can spontaneously generate its own fuel in the sunless void. The bedrock of this dark ecology relies on sulfur-eating bacteria. These microscopic powerhouses consume hydrogen sulfide gas seeping from the surrounding rock, oxidizing it to generate the energy required to convert carbon dioxide into organic matter. They gather in massive, gelatinous colonies, sometimes hanging from the cave ceiling in dripping, viscous formations, affectionately dubbed snottites by the cavers who find them. These living stalactites are highly acidic. They boast a pH level similar to battery acid, yet they teem with ferocious biological activity. This microbial metabolism does more than just sustain a food chain. It actively sculpts the subterranean landscape. As the sulfur-eating bacteria process hydrogen sulfide, they excrete sulfuric acid as a byproduct. This highly corrosive acid eats away at the surrounding limestone, carving out massive chambers and intricate passageways over geological timescales. The very creatures that inhabit the darkness are simultaneously the architects of their own expanding universe. They literally dissolve solid rock to build their sunless empire. Nourished by this chemosynthetic foundation, a bizarre menagerie of larger organisms has evolved to exploit the subterranean void. These are the troglobites, creatures that have adapted so completely to cave life that they can no longer survive on the surface. In the absence of light, visual camouflage and vibrant mating displays are useless expenditures of energy. Consequently, troglobites have universally shed their pigmentation. Their bodies are rendered a ghostly, translucent white, a stark lack of color that often reveals the internal organs pulsing beneath their chitinous exoskeletons. The most striking adaptation of these deep earth denizens is the complete loss of sight. Developing and maintaining eyes requires a massive amount of metabolic energy, a luxury that a nutrient-scarce cave environment simply cannot support. Over millions of years of isolated evolution, these species have allowed their eyes to regress and vanish entirely. They leave behind smooth, featureless faces. To navigate the pitch-black corridors, they have developed hypersensitive alternatives, relying on elongated antennae, chemical receptors, and an extraordinary sensitivity to the faintest air currents or water vibrations. Some species of cave crickets possess antennae that are twice the length of their entire bodies, constantly whipping through the damp air to build a tactile map of the cavern. They can detect the microscopic shift in air currents caused by a predator moving several feet away, allowing them to evade capture in a world where hiding is impossible. Life in these deep chambers operates at a glacial pace. Because the energy generated by chemosynthesis is a fraction of what the sun provides, these isolated ecosystems are defined by an extreme economy of motion. A blind cave beetle might go months without a single meal. It moves with agonizing slowness to conserve every hard-won calorie. Reproduction is infrequent, and lifespans stretch out far beyond those of their surface-dwelling relatives. It is a delicate, slow-motion existence, perfectly calibrated to the absolute limits of starvation. While Lechuguilla showcases the architectural power of microbes, another location pushes the boundaries of survival even further. Beneath a featureless plain in Romania lies Movile Cave. It is a subterranean vault that remained entirely sealed off from the outside world for roughly 5.5 million years. When workers serendipitously breached its limestone ceiling, they unleashed an atmosphere that should have been utterly devoid of life. The air inside Movile contains half the oxygen of the surface, spiked with lethal concentrations of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. Yet, dropping into this toxic, humid gas chamber revealed an ecosystem of unprecedented density. Movile Cave is a biological goldmine. It hosts dozens of species found nowhere else on Earth. The sulfur-rich thermal waters pooling at the bottom of the cave are capped by thick, floating mats of chemosynthetic bacteria. These mats serve as the grazing grounds for an entire community of terrestrial and aquatic troglobites. Water scorpions, pseudoscorpions, centipedes, and leeches crawl through the darkness. They are locked in a brutal, blind food web completely detached from the planetary surface. In this sealed crucible, the competition for resources is fierce. Blind spiders spin irregular, haphazard webs across the rock faces, not needing geometric perfection to catch prey that cannot see the silk. The floor of the cave is a constant battlefield where sightless predators track their prey entirely by the chemical trails left behind on the damp limestone. In the deeper flooded recesses of global cave networks, the apex predators of the dark patrol the silent waters. The blind fish, such as the Mexican tetra, navigate their subterranean aquifers with terrifying precision. Though they lack eyes, their skulls are lined with an exaggerated lateral line system. This is a series of neuromasts that detect microscopic changes in water pressure. As a blind fish glides through a submerged tunnel, it senses the bow wave of its own movement bouncing off the rock walls. It creates a highly detailed, three-dimensional hydrodynamic map of its surroundings. Genetic analysis of these sightless hunters provides a stunning window into the mechanics of evolution. Researchers have discovered that the embryos of blind fish actually begin to develop eyes. But within days, a programmed cellular death takes over. It dissolves the ocular tissue and seals the orbit with flesh and scales. This is not merely a loss of function. It is an active, genetically driven dismantling of an organ that has become an evolutionary liability in the dark. Documenting these phantom ecosystems exacts a heavy toll on the scientists who dare to study them. Entering environments like Movile requires navigating flooded sumps and breathing through specialized rebreathers. Explorers must avoid suffocating in the toxic atmosphere. They inch through claustrophobic squeezes where a single panicked movement could result in being wedged permanently in the bedrock. The physical endurance required to simply reach these biological frontiers rivals the stamina demanded by high-altitude mountaineering. The extreme isolation that forged these unique species also renders them incredibly fragile. Because they have evolved in a hermetically sealed environment devoid of surface pathogens or sudden environmental shifts, troglobites possess virtually no immune defenses against outside contamination. A single human breath introduces thousands of foreign bacteria. A dropped crumb of food can trigger a catastrophic fungal bloom that obliterates an entire microscopic food chain. Consequently, accessing these pristine caves is heavily restricted. Scientists are often required to wear sterilized cleanroom suits before descending into the abyss. Even the lint shed from a caver's synthetic clothing can introduce microplastics and alien fibers that the subterranean scavengers might consume, leading to fatal blockages. The very act of observing these untouched worlds threatens to destroy the delicate equilibrium they have maintained for millions of years. The implications of these sunless worlds extend far beyond the crust of our own planet. If complex, multi-tiered ecosystems can flourish in the toxic, pressurized, and lightless depths of Earth, The parameters for where life might exist in the universe must be radically expanded. The sulfur-eating bacteria of Lechuguilla and the blind predators of Movile provide a living blueprint for astrobiologists. They suggest that the subterranean oceans of Jupiter's moon Europa, or the deep Martian bedrock, might not be barren wastelands. They could be potential havens for extraterrestrial chemosynthetic life. Every new fissure explored, every flooded tunnel mapped, reinforces a profound truth about the tenacity of biology. The blind ecosystems of the deep Earth demonstrate that life is not merely a passive passenger relying on the sun's benevolence. It is an active, aggressive force. It is capable of devouring solid rock, breathing poison, and shedding its own eyes to conquer the abyss. In the eternal night of the ancient cave systems, survival is not an anomaly. It is a masterpiece of dark adaptation.